So I was going to do the if I could be serious for a minute to open the clip here, but I figured that would be cheesy. You know, everybody does the if I could be serious for a minute. We got this clip from Lance Storm today, but I didn't want to do that. So instead, what I opted to do was to tell you that I was going to do it, but decided to not do it, but ended up doing it anyway, which is a much better approach. At least it's unique and original and comes at it from a different perspective. I'm falling off the rails here. I've been talking so much CM Punk that I think I'm losing my mind. Well, let's talk a little Lance Storm. Lance Storm had made an appearance, a rare interview. I don't see too many Lance Storm interviews come across my radar. Maybe I'm just not looking for him because he's dry and boring. But he is smart, and I do appreciate his opinion nonetheless. He was on the Insight podcast with Chris Van Vliet this week, and he was talking about his dream final match that he wants to have before he retires. The same dream final match that Chris Jericho wants to have before he retires is with Chris Jericho. They want to have their final match with each other. But Lance is pleading with him. Bro, we're running out of time. You got to quit wrestling at some point or we're not going to be able to do this shit. Check out this clip.
Do you remember the first time that you met Chris Jericho and what your impressions were of him when you met him?
Yeah, I do. I was, and I trained, I was in good shape. It's like, I'm expecting to show up at like an NFL camp, right? Where I'm like praying to God I'm in good enough shape to hang.
Yeah.
And then I see this and it was this crappy hotel. And I got picked up at the airport and taken to this hotel. And every person I see when I get there is skinny little kid, big fat guy. Like no one looked like an athlete at all. And I had again, you didn't have internet. So you didn't know that that's what all wrestling schools look like.
Right.
But I had went to the end of the hallway. There was a fire escape and I'm standing on the fire escape. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I've made a huge mistake. This place is a joke. And then this green beat up looking 76 Volare pulls into the parking lot and out jumps Chris Jericho. And I see a kid that clearly goes to the gym, that clearly looks like an athlete. And I'm like running down the fire escape to meet this person because maybe if there's someone else here that has a hope in hell, then maybe I didn't make a mistake. So I ran down and introduced myself to Chris and helped him carry his trunk of clothes and stuff out of the trunk of his car and helped him move in. And it's like, if not for seeing him, I probably would have been on a plane back home the next day.
Wow.
There was quite literally no one else to work with. Like we would have been doomed because we did everything with each other and trained. Like we were at the top of the class and there was a big gap to who was next. And without each other, it's like I don't know what we would have done. I can't imagine we would have progressed anywhere near where we were.
It's amazing. And also Chris Jericho is still wrestling now 30 plus years later.
Yes, that's that's sort of the running joke between us because we've over the years have made a pact that because our very first match was against each other. We did like a 10 or a 15-minute draw. I don't remember which in Ponoka, Alberta out here. And I've always contended that it would be cool, especially because we know each other still, to do our last match with each other too and have us both bookend our careers. And on one of the Talk is Jericho podcasts, as well as recently just personally, we've sort of, reaffirmed the pact to do it. But I keep joking with him. It's like, dude, you have to retire at some point or I'm not going to be able to do it. You've got to retire inside the next 5 or 10 years, dude, or I don't want to do it at 75.
I think that would be a brilliant thing to do, and I would be absolutely all for it, and I think it would make sense. And honestly, I think we're closer to it than we imagine, because I'll tell you this. Chris Jericho is not going to be able to have too many more matches like he had this past weekend at Wembley Stadium. Both from the stadium point of view, even though AEW booked Wembley next year already, which was smart, by the way. Quick sidebar, I didn't get to mention this last week. It was smart to rebook that, and here's why. Even if they can't redraw the same crowd, they're putting their stamp on it as theirs. They're making it so that WWE cannot run Wembley Stadium. They can, technically, legally, but they're doing it, they're going to look like they're copying, or the AEW is stamping Wembley Stadium as theirs. Similar to the way WWE has always stamped Madison Square Garden as theirs. AEW is calling Wembley Stadium home base, and there's some precedent to that because of the Jacksonville Jaguars playing over there and that sort of thing, but I digress. It's a whole separate side story. Had to throw that in there. But Chris Jericho is going to run out of opportunities to do big stadium shows like that, and he's going to run out of opportunities to be able to perform at that level. I had said going into All In, I was kind of a little down on the card, and I really thought that Jericho was a bad opponent for Will Ospreay. I thought it was good for Will Ospreay's reputation to have a match with a big star, but Will Ospreay is such an elite level wrestler, a talent, an athlete in the ring. His caliber of matches, he would have to dumb it down so much for Chris Jericho, or Chris Jericho would just look so sloppy and fat and old and slow trying to keep up with him. But I was wrong. Now, of course, yes, it was not Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay. There was, Jericho, he was still Jericho. But this was as good of a Chris Jericho, the best Chris Jericho I've seen in a number of years. He's had a handful of matches in AEW that caliber. I don't know if Ospreay carried him to that. I don't know if Jericho went in with something to prove because he heard people saying, oh, he can't hang with Ospreay. He can't hang. And remember, that was part of my criticism, too. I was like, Jericho's going to go in there and he's going to try to think he can hang with Ospreay. Well, he did. But I don't know how much more of those he's got left in him. How much more does he need to do? Not necessarily a lot. He can do a lot just being on TV and doing angles and having generic matches. He doesn't need to have too many more of those bangers, but I think we're heading towards a Chris Jericho retirement. I wouldn't be surprised if Wembley Stadium was the place to announce Chris Jericho's last match next year with Lance Storm. And they could tell, they wouldn't even need to shoot an angle or anything. Jericho could just say just tell it like it is. It's my last match. I want to do it against Lance Storm. You could even have Jericho attack Lance Storm, and Jericho, Storm comes out the next week. They shake hands on it. They hug, they're friends, and then Jericho fucking attacks him for no reason and walks away. And then he's just like, what, I don't know. What was the reason? Who cares? Give him somebody to boo for it? I don't know. That'd be stupid. You're right. Babyface as it is. Jericho versus Lance. Babyface versus babyface. Final match. Wembley Stadium. Book it next year. You get the point, but we're running out of time. Lance is right. Both for Jericho and Lance. Lance in the ring much less than Jericho. He's still in shape. But how much more can he physically do this? And how much more are people going to care? Remains to be seen, but I like the idea of them bookending it. I think that's a unique concept. We're going to have our last match with the same person we had our first match with. I like that, and I hope that is how they both get to end their careers. But who knows? Jericho keeps going hard, and he put out a banger. No doubt, wasn't Ospreay's best match, but it was definitely one of Jericho's best matches in a long, long time. So, holy fucking shit, right? Good for Jericho. Interested to see what is left for him to do. That's the other thing. What's left for this guy to accomplish? It's another reason why I think it's time that we're going to be seeing him hang it up soon. He's done all he can do other than it's fun for him now to be out there. I think he's kind of, done all there is to do in this business. Time to go out on a high note. But that's just my thoughts. How would you book Jericho's last match? Would it be against Lance Storm? When would you book it? Would you worry, even care? If you were Chris or whoever, would you worry about Lance Storm running out of time? You just go till you can't go. And, it would have been nice to do it with Lance, but he's too old to do it now, and I can still go, so I'm going to have my last match with Sammy Guevara or something. Who knows? But, yeah, I don't know. Love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Maybe you don't even like Jericho. Maybe you want him to retire right now. That's a fun one, too. You can tell me that. Let me know in the comments below. Peace, love, and pizza. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Thanks for checking out the video. Yeah. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like it if you liked it. Yeah. And you can check out full episodes each and every Sunday right here on the channel. Oh, yeah. Dig it.